year 2002, 2003 to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, which came out earlier today on email, which are now being distributed to you even as we speak. So you might want to take a minute to glance over those.
Is there a roster going around?
Oh, the attendance thing is...
I have a tablet right there that can be passed around,
Oh, okay.
Stacy.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You get it, but you're not allowed to say it. Second, Tim.
Everybody got a copy? Minutes?
That pretty much shot the faculty senate budget for the year right now.
Yeah, well, nice. Not
I think
to
I told you it's either $470 or $490.
Oh, yeah. Well, you don't want to leave the circle.
In the black. No, well, yeah. And then they changed the account number halfway through the year.
They did.
Yeah, it's $470, that's what it is.
Why did they change the account?
I have no idea. How do they come up with a number?
While we're passing the minutes around
470.
and perusing them, can we go ahead and get any proxies that are officially identified so far? Jim?
I have one proxy so far. Scott White has the proxy for Senator Daniels.
Are there other proxies that need to be established at this time? Have we had an opportunity to examine the minutes of the April 24th meeting? Been moved and accepted. Seconded by Jeff Horn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There is none. Therefore, the minutes stand accepted as read, as distributed. Under special orders of the day, the only thing I have on front of the agenda is a report on the legislative session as it relates to budgets and hence raises, if one is available from Dr. Rankin. I called over at Overstreet yesterday and asked Latricia to ask Ann to have Dr. Rankin give Ann a report on what's going on. That's something I could share with you today. I didn't want to take his time. But later in the day, very kindly called me from Little Rock and told me pretty much what you all saw in the newspaper. So at this point, if you're keeping up with stuff, you probably know about as much as anyone else. He did say that he would call me again today if there was anything to report. And we decided that if he didn't call today, we didn't know if that'd be good news or bad news. So I'm going to choose to call it good news. Hope it's best. Does anybody who knows something about such matters, he said, eyeing the business folks, have you news, did you know what's going on today?
Those folks might.
Say again.
I said those folks might.
There you go. These folks might. Y'all heard anything about what's going on in the legislature today?
We have.
Good.
We received $590,000 in general improvement funds, $230,000 for the planning of the science center, and $260,000 for critical maintenance. And
What was that last amount again?
$260,000 for critical maintenance. And we talked to them maybe 30 minutes ago or an hour, and they were waiting for the Senate to go back into chambers, and they thought they would be voting. We told them to call us and let us know.
Have your cell phones on?
We do.
All right. And this is, help me be sure I understand, this is money that has gone through the entire budget, Senate and led the House process. Now, does it then have to be funded at some point in the future, or is this likely to actually come into existence?
This is, the way we understood it, this is appropriated and funded,
Right.
which means it should become available after July. Now, sometimes because of the way the earnings on the state or it comes in increments over the 2 years. You get some each quarter. But this should mean that that money is going to be ours to spend.
Okay. So we're gonna call that good news, right? And such good news will excuse these folks for being late, since they brought good news.
Can you run down those numbers one more time?
Yes. 590,000 total in the general improvement fund. 230,000 of that is for planning of the science center,
Of that, that's not.
Of that total.
and 260,000 of that is for critical maintenance.
Well, I added all that up and got 1,080,000, so I thought, ooh. So
I
no,
wish.
it's not adding that up. Mhm.
So we're still waiting to hear then about our actual operating budget and
Any new funds from the state. The Senate is supposed to consider the House-passed bill that included some tobacco and a 3% surcharge on income tax with a sunset after 2 years. The Senate does not like the income tax surcharge, and they don't like the sunset.
Who didn't like the sunset?
The Senate.
And I understand that the House likes their tobacco bill better than the Senate.
The House Rules Committee rejected
They
the
rejected.
Senate tobacco bill, the Senate sent over. The Senate Tax Committee did send to the full Senate the House bill. So the Senate has got to make a decision, shut down state government on principle or go along with the House.
no tie their knots in the tails, the tails in a knot. Any other reports then that we can share at this point that we're optimistic, but we're still not at a real good,
I'm not optimistic yet.
okay. Well, we're optimistic about what we've already heard. We're happy about what we've heard. That's what I'm saying.
Since everything is up in the air, when will contracts most likely come out then? Any anticipation? It will obviously be later than what we
Well,
usually.
I don't know. I mean, if they don't do anything, the contracts can probably go out. The board, I think the board's authorization at their last meeting will allow us to send contracts out with the no raise because there's no new state funding. And I think we could probably do the 2.7 if the legislature gave us that money. We might, if we knew that today, we probably could get contracts out by next Friday or the following Monday. At least it takes about a week to generate the contract.
Is it within the realm of possibility that we would do, as has been done in the past, send out contracts and then send out a revised contract later? Is there any benefit in doing that, or is that
That's
part
been-
of the plan?
That's been something that has been discussed, if that's, yeah, that's a possibility.
Other questions, comments, observations related to the report from Little Rock?
Am I to understand that if it is approved, that you're saying that everybody across the board might get a 2.7 increase? Is that what
If
you're-
we get a sufficient, if the current Revenue Stabilization Act, which would give us something like $700,000, if they fund that, the 2.7 raises would occur. I mean, that is subject to, any dean can choose not to give money to any one individual if they have justification.
Oh, don't say something like
But,
that.
I'm sure that wouldn't apply to,
That might be something that we want to look into in future, as to whether,
This would be the first time in 19 years that people have not gotten a raise.
Not true.
Oh, yes, it is true.
We had a deferred raise.
I beg your pardon?
1 year we had a raise that didn't come in until like October, November.
Okay. I will allow you to say that.
now there
But
was
we
one,
did get
there
it
was
right.
one, I thought there was 1 year since I've been here that we didn't get raises back in like 1988.
What?
But maybe this is the third raise.
somebody
I'm
take that
thinking.
man's Palm Pilot and stone him.
My records are not.
I said.
We don't want those precedents.
No, we definitely don't. Other questions while Senator Cardis is exercising the palm ballot? Other questions, comments, or observations?
I don't have that data.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your bringing that information to us. Under committee reports, our next, is there any other matter that needs to come up under special orders of the day? If not, I'll press on to the committee reports. I have asked chairs of the standing committees of the Faculty Senate to report briefly on issues of the year which their committees addressed, and especially to report on matters which will need to be addressed by next year's committees. We'll begin with David Ashby, the Budget Committee, who also reports for Fringe Benefits Committee.
We met, I guess, last week sometime, and it was what to do with tuition increases. Dr. Rankin was proposing moving the tuition to $123 an hour, and I think charging for the 13th hour, something like that. There was considerable, as a point of reference, Henderson is now at $130 an hour, plus Henderson also raised their fees by $100. Whereas we had proposed raising our fees, I think, by $30. So they had like a $70 jump on us there, plus they're at 130 bucks an hour. There was strong support for going a little above and beyond the 123. We actually did end up at 125. I think the board held a conference call and approved the $125 an hour, which gets us a little bit closer to Henderson, but as near as I can tell, we're still the cheapest in the state. For what that's worth, and what it's worth is it costs us a ton of money to be cheapest, because UCA is at what, about a flat $600 a semester higher than us. I think $500, $600 a semester higher than us, and their applications as of day before yesterday are up 1,300 over this time last year. They earlier had released data that they were up 1,000. Now they're up 1,300. So price ain't the issue here. It's getting us sold to the public.
We might mention how much UCA spent on their ad campaign.
Did they spend $250?
That's the number we received.
And that's what we're giving for the science. Point of reference.
No.
No, 230.
Well, thank you. Is there a move to accept the report? Second? Seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Then let us, is there any question or comment or observation to make in relation to Senator Ashby's report? Senator Ashby, can I ask you if you would also comment, is there anything further that needs to be said about what the Fringe Benefits Committee, since we're rolling those two together?
We haven't met again since the last report. We will end up with going with the same medical care program that we've had in the past, medical insurance. Roger, do you have a final figure on the price increase there yet?
They're meeting next week.
Okay, we're going
It's
to be
looking
way
at,
ahead again.
it's going to be 7 to 10%, and we've been estimating
Yeah, we
10.
budgeted 10, could come in a little less than that. We have a possibility of changing our third-party administrator. We use somebody called AMCO, and we're looking, or I think the group is looking at changing to a different third-party administrator that could probably get us a little bit deeper discounts at the service providers, so that could possibly slow the rate of increase some. It'd probably be a good move, but nothing beyond that.
I might mention that the group that they're looking at, Nova Systems, is the opposite of the Blue Cross Baptist network system. So you have the hospital, there are two hospitals in the town. You have the hospital that's not in the Blue Cross network. For instance, Wadley and Texarkana, St. Vincent's and Little Rock as opposed to Baptist, that kind of thing. Now, a lot of the doctors that are in the Blue Cross network are not in Nova's network.
Nova would get us into UAMS, is that right?
Yes, but not to the heart hospital.
Okay.
Neither does the other one, does it? No.
AMCO does.
AMCO.
Blue Cross would not.
The employee part that we had to pay increase for insurance.
If you're paying for family coverage, it'll go up about 7%.
The sound you hear
I
is
got
more
paid.
families bailing out the Blue Cross Blue Shield private policies.
And individuals.
No, there'll be no charge for individuals. Well, the policy will still cover the individual, but unfortunately, the family coverage will go up around 7% for those of us that have that. And that's another problem we've got, and we struggled with it. In that the family coverage that you get through the younger families get through Blue Cross is great, but if an individual gets sick and Blue Cross cancels their coverage, we have to take them back into our system in an open enrollment period. So we keep all the people who have health problems and all the people that are healthy leave.
And we can't blame people
No, I'm
for
not,
we're looking for.
that is not a critical comment. It is simply a
It's a catch-22.
business kind of proposition that, we can be thankful that we do have the coverage, even though it is expensive, so that those of us who have ongoing chronic health problems can get it paid for.
I will say that, I'm sorry. go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it is a problem, and we have not done anything to address that issue.
One of the suggestions is we put more money into it so that we can make it more affordable. But until we, as David has pointed out, until we get some of that money we're leaving on the table, we can't do those kind of things.
I will say that I've watched the Fringe Benefits Committee working, and I know there are ideas that they're dealing with, and they seem never to stop trying to find a way to do better for us than we're being done now. So I hope they'll continue, I know they'll continue to do that. Mark?
Do we still have the option of PPO or major medical on the individual?
Yeah.
Do y'all recall what the differential is on it? Like, when you said individual won't cost anything, that's if it's PPO, right?
Yes.
If
Major medical is
y'all
still,
remember.
I don't know what that differential is.
And
It'll
will
go-
that
probably
still
go
be-
up a little
And then
bit.
will that be available under the new administrators that y'all looking at also, same thing? In other words,
I don't know,
restricted
I've got to get
using
more
savings.
information on that and get it out to you.
I think it would be available under Nova Systems, but when you look at the Blue Cross quotes that came in, there was a huge difference. If Blue Cross offered major medical as opposed to a straight PPO, there was a huge price difference. So, I mean, it's clear to me we're paying a premium by offering both of them. It's just an issue of,
See, major medical is now 70-30 rather than 80-20, I believe.
Yeah.
Isn't that correct?
Yes.
yeah.
So Nova Systems would only apply to the network.
Okay, is there anything else? I promised Senator Shahada comes out early so he doesn't have to make an additional claim on his insurance. Is there anything else related to the Budget Committee report? Very well, the next committee report is Senator Dan Dykema with the Handbook Committee.
The main item is the approval of the proposed changes as they were modified in our next to the last assembly meeting and then approved in our meeting last Friday. And to make sure that that is now incorporated into an electronic version of the handbook. And that will be largely a summer task, scanning the existing hard copy of the handbook, getting it into electronic format, and then modifying it so that we can distribute the changes to the faculty in the fall. So that'll be the main priority. The Handbook Committee has not met since, we brought our recommendations initially to the Senate. And I want to thank my fellow members, Mary Armwood, James Reppert, and Sam Reiner for their help and deliberations this school year.
Continuing issue will include various policies.
Right, and I'll address that later.
Okay. Jeff Horn, Senator Horn, the parking committees, or?
Don't have any further business from this year. I think one thing that we need to do on that committee in the future probably is expand the duties of that particular and look at some parking situations on campus instead of the situation.
Appreciate the comment.
faculty bargaining issues and things like that.
I agree about, we need to look into whether we're doing the right thing. Of course, parking is changing so rapidly on campus right now in some ways. Can we do both those committees except at once, since I forgot? All in favor of accepting, is there a motion to accept both? Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. So we accepted both those committees. Since the standing committees of the university made their year-end reports to the faculty assembly on Friday, May 2nd, I have not placed committee reports on the agenda from them. However, since some committee chairs reported that they would meet again after the assembly, we can now hear any reports, any additional reports on the faculty senate liaisons to those committees. Are there any? Okay, standing committees as needed, there are none.
Well,
I'm sorry.
the faculty development, teaching and technology did meet, did approve 3 applications to the total tune of $5,090. We had $5,000 to spend. I rang up the president and got $90 more, and so that's what we did. And that's Ben Johnson, Gerald Plumley, and Stout, over in Art Stout. So we're done. We spent all our money.
Nothing left?
Spent more than we had.
Move to accept the report. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Report's accepted. Are there other standing committees with reports today? Any new business as may come before the Senate needs to be addressed today? Yes, sir.
President, I have a resolution I would like to read and the body act on in conjunction with Senator W. Belcher. Whereas Dr. Stacy Clanton has served Southern Arkansas University admirably as faculty senate president during the 2002-2003 school year. Whereas the Senate has dealt successfully with a number of issues important to the academic rigor and vigor of the university during his tenure, being guided by him as president, therefore be it resolved, the Faculty Senate of Southern Arkansas University expresses its deepest gratitude and appreciation to and admiration for Dr. Stacy Clanton.
Hear, hear. Somehow, Senator Horton, we should inject the term life of the mind into the resolution.
I accept that as a friendly amendment.
I like rigor and vigor.
And you haven't heard the last of it. Thank you. I appreciate that. It is as a resolution from the floor. It stands as a motion. Is there a second to the resolution? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed with the same sign. The resolution carries, and I thank you for doing that. I really wasn't expecting that since I wrote the last 7 that got written. So I said, thank you. I appreciate it. That's nice of you to do. I appreciate the wording as well. Any other new business that needs to come before the body? The next item is remarks from the outgoing faculty senate president. Ed, you're funny looking.
I was going to call the cloture.
That's a remark. That's not what it had in mind. In fact, I did want to, I couldn't miss this opportunity. I did want to say a few things, and you may want to take that resolution back after you hear them. But when I had the opportunity to address the faculty at the Fall Faculty Assembly, I spoke of concerns I had, and which I think many of us share, about that portion of the university's life which we as faculty, and especially we as faculty senate, are responsible for. That which I think is the most important part of our existence, the academic life of the university. I said then that at SAU, as at many institutions of higher learning, there had developed a culture of accommodation, a culture of absenteeism, and that as a result, we were not yet realizing the academic integrity, academic rigor, and academic vigor of which we are capable, and which our then new president had envisioned for us. The faculty, I urged then, as I urge now through its Senate, should examine the programs, policies, and practices in which we are engaged that are, if not merely inimical to academic integrity, rigor, and vigor, are downright hostile to them. If an extra academic program serves merely to attract and retain numbers of bodies to campus and does not specifically target academic excellence, we should rethink it, and I believe we do so. If an academic program should be perceived as providing only hours and degrees without expecting academic vigor from its students, the Academic Affairs Committee and the college and the department which house the program should, as they do, subject that program to scrutiny and effect changes. If a policy of the university seems to serve to create an atmosphere which is antipathetic to academic excellence, we should revisit the policy and make the changes in it which are needed to allow for a new atmosphere to develop. This is especially true if the policy puts us on the outside of that which is the norm at all of our sister institutions, and which seems to place the determination of one of the academic policies of our classes in the hands of someone other than the instructor. And finally, we need to look at practices which might encourage us to be perceived, however inaccurately, by our students, by our region, and by our constituents as anything less than authentic in our commitment to the highest standards of service and responsibility as described in our mission statement. You want an example? Here's a simple one. What if we rethought our concept of the work of the class? Stop any student or faculty member on campus and ask for a definition of that term, and you'll get an account of tests, quizzes, projects, and papers. What if we were able to begin thinking of the work of the class as the thinking, the learning, the exchange of ideas, and the development of the life of the mind that goes on through the readings, lectures, and discussions held in conjunction with the class? And we shifted to thinking of tests, quizzes, and the like, not as the work of the class, but as that which follows the work of the class. And what if we conveyed that notion to our students? Without really changing the structure of what we do, we could increase the academic rigor and vigor of the university 100-fold. And what if we began to think, as most of us I believe already do, of the things we do outside our classes, our search committees, our departmental and college committees, our ad hoc committees, our standing committees of the university, and yes, even our faculty senate service, as being as much a part of our work as is delivering those lectures and grading those exams and papers. That means in faculty senate being here for meetings, or if unavoidable professional commitments or other impediments prevent one's being here, appointing a proxy. Woody Allen said, 80% of success is showing up. That's a lesson our students need to learn, but it's one we also need to learn. And having now served in this body for 7 years, along with more than a year of regular attendance as a visitor, I feel comfortable in urging us all as the Southern Arkansas University Faculty Senate for 2003-2004, not only to show up, but to become, and please don't tell Pat Clanton, you heard me utter the word I'm about to utter, to become proactive. For many years at Southern Arkansas University, it was about all the Faculty Senate could do to try to keep fires under control. And we became somewhat reactive. But now that we have a president and vice president for academic affairs, those immediately above us in the organizational chart, now that we have a president and VPAA who have professed themselves to be committed to academics and who trust the faculty and expect the faculty to take appropriate initiatives to help lead us to that next level of academics, we have the opportunity as the wise old ones, that's what Senate means, the wise old ones of the faculty, to take initiative and effect some positive change and improvement. But we won't do that merely by showing up once a month and debating someone else's agenda. It behooves us, therefore, not to wait for someone in Faculty Senate to propose something and then debate it, water it down, and shuffle it off to an ad hoc committee. It behooves us, as representatives of the faculty, to actively seek ways we can improve the programs, policies, and practices of this institution, to consult with our constituencies and with one another about the things which are important to the academic life of the university, to propose plans, not to wait for someone else to propose plans, to tweak them and modify them and discuss them, not to catch someone doing something wrong, but to make sure we have become even better than what we are. And that begins, as Woody Allen suggested, by showing up. Well, before we seat the newly elected senators, we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge with the deep gratitude of all of us, not only on the Senate, but also among the faculty, those persons who are leaving the Senate, for the time being at least, with this meeting. David Ashby became a senator when Hector was a pup, I believe. And he has served the Senate well in this capacity all this time. He will be replaced on the Senate as representative from the School of Business by Tim Wise. Dan Bernard entered the Senate to fill the last year of the term left vacant when Don Nelson resigned to become interim dean of the School of Education. He will be replaced by Brian McCoy, who is not here today. In fact, neither is Dan Bernard. McCoy said a conflict. James Reppert has served the Faculty Senate admirably and well during the last year or 2 years, just the last 3 years, as secretary. As secretary during the last year, and has done an excellent job in that capacity. And having done that job before, believe me, it ain't easy. He will be replaced by Claudel Woods as representative from the School of College of Liberal and Performing Arts. Hassan Shahada has been officially or unofficially on the Senate for a very long time. I don't think I've ever been to a Senate where Hassan was not present, actively involved in the discussion and the deliberations that went on. Mary Armwood has been on the Senate as long as I can remember and has done an excellent job serving on many committees of the Senate and committees out in the university as well, and has ably represented the faculty at large. Both of these at-large senators will be moving off the Senate this year to be replaced by a couple of familiar faces, and both of whom, in fact, are former presidents of the Senate, Lynn Belcher and Suzanne Jessup. And we welcome all of those. I forgot. In addition, Senator Scott White, who came to the Senate this year to take the seat of Joyce Taylor, right? You know how you came in the School of Science, I believe that's well. But this is your first year, Scott's first year on Senate, and the last year of the term, and he will be replaced ably, perhaps even in a better way, by his successor, Steve White. Sorry, one more time. Once it works, go for it again. Now, Scott was elected to a full 3-year term. So I would like to ask at this time those senators who are leaving their seats in the Senate to go to the outer tier, to the 10th circle of hell, and the
So I'm leaving my tape recorder.
Okay, the senators who are coming on you, please come down to the bottom. And our welcome to all of them. Yeah, sit you down. And if I may, Dan, on behalf of the nominating committee, as you know, the Senate Constitution charges the sitting officers of the Senate as the nominating committee for officers, and in the fall for the liaisons and all, various other activities related to the Senate. This year's nominating committee has nominated the following. For parliamentarian, Mark Fletcher. That's parliamentarian for life of the Senate. For secretary, Scott White. For vice president, Jeff Horn. And for president, the once and future president, Dan Dykema. As a recommendation from committee, this comes as a nomination. Are there other nominations for any of these positions? not, I will entertain a motion that these persons be elected by acclamation. So moved by Senator Horton. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, seconded by Senator Belcher. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes, and I am out of here. Dan, welcome back.
I want to thank the body for allowing me to serve in this capacity again. It's been 6 years since I was at the helm here. And again, I want to echo my appreciation for those who are stepping off of the Senate for their years of service and dedication. And I'd also like to remind the body to remember Joyce Taylor, who served the body as well and passed away several weeks ago. I want to thank my fellow officers, Secretary Jim Reppert. I empathize well with the hours that go into those duties, parliamentarian Mark Fletcher, and of course President Stacy Clanton. And I admire his courage and his tenacity to bring issues before the Senate and his sense of idealism. I think it's very much valued by the whole body and faculty. And I certainly want to express my appreciation for that. In terms of looking ahead to the future, I'd like to build on the excellent model of mutual communication that we have experienced this year between the Faculty Senate and the upper administration. I very much appreciate the administrators coming to address these questions, coming to the meetings, and sharing their perspective with us. So that's very important that we continue and to build on that model. And I want to make sure that the handbook is put into electronic format. That was certainly a very big issue 6 years ago when we were making all of these changes to the handbook. And for a time it did exist in electronic version, but it does not now. So behind the scenes this summer, that will be one of my main tasks, is to make sure that that is scanned, the hard copy is scanned and put into electronic version, that we can then incorporate the changes that were approved. And then also looking ahead to address this issue of class attendance, which we raised in the body and debated, and of course it was a motion to refer it to an ad hoc committee for next year. So that certainly will be an important issue that we will need to revisit. And of course, the fringe benefits issues that have been discussed numerous times, that will be ongoing. And I think just to make sure that we can articulate and see forward the vision for the university with various building projects and contributing to that in a healthy way. So that's a bit of an overview of what I think we need to address. I'm looking forward to working with you all and drawing from your strengths and what you bring to our debate. I have 2 announcements to make. There will be the groundbreaking ceremony tomorrow for the Reynolds Foundation Center at noon. I guess there will be several speakers. I haven't seen the printed agenda for that, but
It hasn't been completed.
it's still
Almost
still in
final.
the works.
We hope it'll be ready to be handed out tomorrow.
I can tell you some of the speakers if you would
Okay,
like.
please
Dr.
do.
Rankin will speak, Mr. Colquitt, our Board of Governors Chair, as well as Dr. Guess, our Board of Trustees Chair, and 2 representatives from foundations who made significant contributions will have responses to our appreciation for them.
Well, there's a whole lot of digging going on, as we've seen, and we look forward to those empty spaces being filled, ultimately. The second announcement has to do with the Board of Trustees meeting, which is scheduled for this coming Wednesday, May 14th. It'll be a teleconference at 4:30 in Overstreet Hall. It's a one-item agenda, as I understand, and that deals with the ratification of the sale of bonds. So in the past, we've encouraged Senate members to attend board meetings whenever possible. So this will probably be relatively brief, I would imagine, since there's just
5 minutes.
5 minutes or less. So you won't be taking much out of your schedule should you want to sit in on that. Are there any other announcements from the body at this time? If not, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second? In favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the fall. Thank you. Thank you again for your eloquence. So great. Appreciate it so much.
Bill Money be quiet over here.
Oh, you won't be.
I won't be. Never was before.
You won't be.
Jim?
How are you feeling? I was not aware there was anything wrong with you. I had a stay cloistered in my office. Everything okay?
Better not come up with.
How's Laura?
Well, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
I know, I appreciate it.
As we get out of the way.
Last time I
Is that I thought was your son the other day.
All right. Thank you. Good to have you. I'll miss you.
I understand.
I didn't know much about what was going on, but
I still had one.
Now you know, yeah, you're ready
About
to.
6 years ago, she was a bartender.
Well, this is hilarious because she does most of her
And this
chewing out
too.
people over the phone. And she has to be
No embiggen.
fairly tough.
No embiggen, no.
They asked her to come out to the plant
So did you
to
do
meet
the little?
them because they've been talking to her on the phone.
I started, did you catch that? I got the first part of it.
She had her when she looked at her. And so they
Except
have
for
this little kid that comes out there and she's chewing him up.
Went right past you.
For- Yeah, I paid
I
that.
left this
But,
thing in here for like a week.
Mine
It's
had
still-
degrees of BS.
Yeah, I could figure that out.
Well, I remember hanging on to it. Dear
What
life.
thing you talking about? Oh, I thought you were just, what you?
They called me in
I thought-
before I knew what it was.
Well, I can do these. I can do the minutes from this month.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, is that?
I thought Scott was smarter than that. We would agree to be secretary. My image of Scott has just been
How about the secretary?
Tarnished now,
I just really thought he was a smart
believe
fellow.
Stacy
He
and
would be a
Dan
secretary of the
basically
Senate.
just had.
That's the goofiest thing I've ever heard of. Thank you, Stacy. I do
But I
think you've done
found
an
it, and Dan
absolutely wonderful
first
job.
did it.
Just really,
Yeah.
I've had
But
more pride in my
That
faculty, and I've
microphone,
had
it's
more
basically
pride
a
in
Zoom
my
microphone,
Senate.
it picks up sound very well.
Well, thanks, I appreciate that. I'd like to claim credit, but I think a lot of it has to do with changing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I agree with that, but I think,
Yeah, no, that'll never be a
I think
problem.
your efforts can make.
Because I'll probably, on occasion, this is also served as a very excellent.
To do the work.
Well, we need to all. we need to
I look forward to being
start
back,
doing some-
plugged back together, so
Yeah,
maybe
I'll
I can be
probably
a little
show
bit more
up on
active.
occasion.
Absolutely. I'm glad to see you doing better.
The work I did from my dissertation, my master's in qualitative interviews and stuff, so I know what the issues of how you take before professors who will talk about, students you talk to about, all in the same room, things like that. So, okay. I'll be down to bother you then in August, I guess.
That's not a problem.
Walk around.
One of the things you'll.
Whack anybody with it.
One of the things you'll have to deal with is the account number for the faculty senate has changed. And as I recall, the line item was $470, and as I mentioned to Stacy on the voicemail, a good chunk of that during the beginning of the fall semester went for a cookies and punch thing, I believe.
I'm trying to remember a cookies and punch thing. Where do we have a cookies and punch?
If you go to Poise and check the budgets, you can
Yeah.
see all the line
Yeah,
items.
yeah.
So, but there was something that was the first week of the semester.
Now, Cardis had one last year for,
Oh,
That's on me. Maybe that was it.
yeah,
That's all right.
it may be still on that
That's
budget.
all right. Do it.
Well, Jim, I appreciate all your work.
Well, I'll probably show up on occasion.
Dude, I didn't miss a meeting when
I
I was
transcribe interviews and all that junk. I know what goes into this.
Scott, you're gonna regret it.
Okay. Be here.
Hey,
No, I'm glad you're willing to do it. I like